So welcome everybody to today's masterclass. Today's session is really developing your change leadership competency for the future. And this is part of a 4-part series on developing your change leadership competency. Today's the kickoff with a masterclass, and subsequently, we're going to have 3 more sessions as part of the series. So on February 16th, in another 2 weeks, we're going to have a panel discussion, which will be led by Jen Fullerton, which we will be talking about change leadership competencies for the future and looking at different industries and professions and how they use change leadership competencies and how things are changing. On March 2nd, we're going to have a case study exploration on leading change. So we're going to use a real-time case study and really look at it as a team, or look at it, together, not just one person sharing and teaching, but as a team. So we invite you back again to join us. And then on March 16th, we're going to round it up with an open roundtable discussion. So again, be sure to join us. We will be sharing more information. So be sure to connect with us, myself or Jen Fullerton. And we should be able to send you a message if you RSVP'd for this event. We will send you a link once the series has been put up. So thank you, everybody. In case we have never met before, my name is Yvonne, Ruke, Akpoveta. Nice to meet you. And for those who we've met before, great to have you here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's session. And a little bit about me. I started my career as a business analyst. I moved into doing project management. I moved into management consulting, and over the last 20 years, one thing that has always been common in everything I do is leading change. Before becoming a change management strategist, I was leading change. And I've been doing change management now for the last 20 years. I'm also the founder of the Change Leadership, where I advocate for change leadership as a competency in today's future of work. I often say I'm a big advocate for change leadership because I have seen what change leadership as a competency and skill can have on our communities and even in our workplaces, whether through job losses, whether through deaths. You can just see the pandemic as a prime example from countries who have led the change more effectively, less impact on their economy to those who have not paid a lot of attention to it. That's how much change leadership is really important. At the Change Leadership Organization, we're focused on helping professionals and organizations to successfully lead and manage change in today's disruptive business environment. And we do that through our free community, free masterclasses and events that we do. We have our annual Change Leadership Conference and our Change Leadership Accelerator program. And, why do we do all of this is, maybe I'm a little bit selfish to say, just being able to lead positive change is one of my passions. I've been doing it, like I mentioned, for over 20 years. So you can imagine that the workplace has changed in the last 20 years. And the role of responsibility for who leads and manages change is also changing, which we're going to be talking about today. I'm also a published author, an advisor, coach, speaker, and change leadership catalyst. So that's enough about me. I want to know about you. Would love to know about you. We want to know who is joining us today so that we can even tailor our discussion today to suit the audience and who is here. Like all things change, it's adaptive. So tell us what you do, and you already told us where you're joining us from. So if you haven't introduced us to where you're joining us from, you can also tell us that. But who do we have in the session today? Tell us, what do you do? What's your role? Would love to hear from you. So I'm just looking at the chat now to see what we have. So who is, okay. I'm not saying, so the people we have on board, tell us where you're joining us from. I want to get to know you guys as well. What do you do? I'm waiting. Hi, Oliver. Thanks. Transformation and change management executive, currently in transition. Nice to meet you, Oliver. Spent the last 10 years in insurance. Thank you for introducing yourself. Guy, everybody, please tell us where you're joining us from, because this is an opportunity for us to also connect with one another. Who else is brave enough to share what they do? I just need 2 more people and I'm going to move on. Hi, Jennifer from Maryland. Currently in transition, relaunching and pivoting your career in HR. Awesome. You're going to love the session we have in 2 weeks. You know, we're going to really be bringing someone in from HR, and we're going to be talking about what it means to lead change, even from a HR perspective. Sandra, new to change management, 1 year experience for now. Welcome to the field. Great to have you here. Hector, currently in regional account management, but transitioning to director of operations. Great to have you here. You will love change leadership in terms of what it can even do for you. And Reg, great to have you here, co-founder of Futocracy, change professional since 1992. Awesome. So thank you, everybody. And that was just a feel of what today's session is going to be about. Get used to it, get typing. It's going to be interactive. So I want you to promise me one thing today, that you will participate by commenting, asking questions, and meeting other people in the class as well. So to get started, I have this very first question for you, which is change leadership versus change management. Is it the same thing? If you think change management and change leadership are the same thing, put a yes in. If you think that they're different, type a no in the comments. Change leadership versus change management, are they the same thing or are they different? This is the first question I want us to get started with, because this is important in terms of one area where it seems to be misconstrued, but it is a lot of overlap. So for us to be able to effectively talk about what change leadership is, we need to also start with what change leadership is and what change leadership is not, so that we can focus on developing our change leadership competencies. The way that I describe change leadership is, more or less, the way I describe change management is more systematic. Change management tends to be very project driven. There's a start and there's an end to it. Change management has a lot of focus on tools and methods and deliverables. Change management is what you find often at times a change management professional doing, where there's a particular project in an organization, there's a particular change initiative, and you bring a change management professional to say, you're responsible for leading this change. And often at times you find that they may follow a methodology or a model. They would have a set of deliverables. So very tactical and often very project driven, often has a start, kickoff to even, sustainability. That's where you often find change management. For change leadership, this is even broader. Every change manager has to have change leadership. So change leadership goes beyond what a change manager needs. Change leadership is something that, regardless of your role, whether you're in operations, whether you are a business analyst, whether you're a project manager, a director, whether you're a subject matter expert or a professional, this is where change leadership becomes very important, and anybody can have change leadership skills and develop that competency. Change leadership is about influence. It's about inspiring other people to take action. It's not often always within a project-like environment. It's ongoing. It's business as usual. Your day-to-day grind, you're all doing change leadership in everything. So that's how often differentiates between change management and change leadership. So why is change leadership important? Why is it something key that we need to do? How, again, I'm still talking about the difference, why is change leadership even something that, we differentiate change leadership from change management, but why is it also an important skill that people must have? Because one, if you're either leading or managing a project, you need change leadership, because change leadership is people focused. We need change leadership right now as a key competency because of the rapid pace of change that is taking place around us, the disruption, the technology, AI, future of work, the uncertainty that is even taking place even from the pandemic. This is why change leadership is important. Change leadership is important again because of how organizational structures are changing and becoming flatter. And we'll go a little bit more into this in the coming slides. Before, you had where there's this key hierarchy, you wait for the top management to say something or do something, and it trickles all the way down. But now organizations are flatter and people are being asked to take on the responsibilities of leading change or responding to change in their everyday role. Cognitive skills are becoming more and more critical in the way we do things. When we talk about change leadership being people focused, I'll tell you why I say so. If we look at the 5 common reasons why projects fail or change initiatives fail, if we have change management, that's great. We have a lot of change management methodologies and models and approaches to the way we do change. But based on research, interviews, and even from experience, change still continues to fail. And what are the top 5 reasons? Poor communication, lack of buy-in from management and stakeholders, lack of vision or a shared vision among the team, low team engagement or staffing, or resistance to change. And what do all of this have in common? What are the implications? What they all have in common is that, one, they are all people-focused reasons why change fails. Because there has been so much focus on managing change as opposed to leading change, where leading change is more about the people. I remember when I started my career, even in change management, if you asked what the definition of change management was, people would say, oh, it's the people side of managing change. It's the people side. But somewhere along the line, we lost that people focus and we started to focus more on the management of the change, the tactical side of things, the deliverables, the methodologies, and all of that. So when you look at those reasons that change often fails, it's because of the people side of things. And that's where we need to start to return to. We see that change is really more about leading an art and less about the management of it. And that's where I want us to start to think about change leadership, really from a place of how do we work with people. So still on the subject of why change leadership is important, I also want to share with you 3 shifts that you can see that are happening around us and why we need to start to move our focus more to the side of change leadership, regardless of your role, regardless of your title, regardless of the organization, regardless of what you're doing. This is why change leadership is important. The first shift that we're seeing is the shift to the accelerated future of work. So before we were talking about the future of work, that's why it's called the future of work. This was a conversation that we were having 2 years ago. But now we're calling it the accelerated future of work, which was accelerated by the pandemic. And change is happening faster than you think. So if you've ever come across the future of work, this is a simple definition if you haven't come across it. In simple terms, future of work is how we do our work, the tools that we're using to do our work, where we're working, and the changing types of jobs. And these are all being driven by advanced technologies such as AI, robotics, and even the ongoing disruption that we now see with the pandemic. So if you ever hear the future of work, just think about it in simple terms. It's really how we do our work is changing. The tools we use to do our work is changing. The skills we need to do our work is changing. And the type of jobs we do are also changing. So the future of work is happening and non-technical skills are becoming more valuable. So when you look at the future of work, it's affecting how and what people do. And this is just an example of the implications of the future of work. It's creating and asking for flexibility and agility around our work. Remote working has moved us to a place where we need flexibility. The ability to be able to work from anywhere, use any tool to work, leverage technology, has opened up so much global opportunities. You find people who are saying, okay, yeah, I work in Canada, or for a company in Canada, but I live in the US, or maybe I live in Austria, or I live in Europe. You find that, people are traveling and they're still working. I spoke to somebody the other day. They said, oh, I'm not going to be around, I'm traveling to Africa for some time. And I said, oh, you're traveling for Africa? You took some time off work? They said, no, I'm going to be working. Because we're remotely working now. And that's what we describe when we say the future of work, which is changing the way we work, where we work, and what tools that it is that we use, we need to work. And then when you think about global mobility plus automation, this has started to prioritize and heighten the demand for cognitive skills and leadership skills. You have automation that is taking place. You have global mobility where you can work in any place. So now, what are the new needs and what are the new skills? There's more of a move to cognitive skills over technical skills. There's more of a move to say, what are those things that automation can do? And organizations are leaning more on their people to do those things from a cognitive to a leading aspect. The future, which is present, is being a leader. So if we look at this, which is research from the World Economic Forum, it shows you some of the shifts that are taking place around some of the skills that are in demand. They cited, some of the top 15 skills that are going to be important from 2020 to 2025, and you will see some of them. And some of them all relate to being a change leader, being able to lead change, being a leader. The move to cognitive skills, you see critical thinking and decision-making, leadership, social influence, emotional intelligence and empathy, influence and persuasions, which are all characteristics of being a change leader. This is another research by McKinsey. They also share that there's a shift for the top skills by 2030 to be more highly cognitive and leadership based. These are the skills that will help position us to stand out in our industry. Recently, there was a research by Financial Times 2021 last year, and different countries may call them differently, but they asked chief learning officers, CLOs, what were their top priorities when it came to learning and development in their organizations as we emerged from the pandemic. And what were the top three? Leadership, change management, diversity, and inclusion. The future of work, disruption, pandemic, automation, all of those things are affecting the demand for the skills that we can bring to the table in our careers. Another shift that is happening, which I mentioned earlier, is a shift to more flat and agile organizational structures. And we're not talking about agile in terms of methodology. We're talking about agile in terms of the way we need to be able to respond to change. Look at it. We've just experienced and still experiencing the pandemic in the last 2 years. Who were the organizations that were able to really survive? Were those organizations who were responsive, who were agile, who did not wait for the CEO to say we need to do something, but they could look across the organization and it was flat enough for people to respond and look for solutions and develop solutions and move very quickly. When you look at different organizational structures too, they're removing those hierarchies. Some organizations are saying, oh, we don't use titles in our organizations. There's no more waiting for the leader in quotes. What we like to say at the change leadership is that change leadership is no longer reserved for the select few. It's no longer about role or title. It's about your ability to be able to respond to the needs of whether your customers, your clients, your employees, your stakeholders. Having those flat structures has also increased responsibilities for all employees. The responsibility to produce more results, the responsibility to make things happen, being responsible for your work. Before you could say, oh, it's with my manager. Now you can't say it's with your manager. It's your responsibility. And that's what organizations are looking for. The flatter org structures has moved to a higher requirement for cognitive skills across all levels, such as decision-making, making critical thinking, and being able to make judgment calls. That's what I say. I was thinking judgment, but I didn't know if judgment came out sounding right. So there's more of a requirement for cognitive skills across different levels, regardless of your role or responsibility. There's more of an increased end-to-end task ownership and demonstration of leadership capabilities. What did they used to do before in organizations? They would say, oh, who can we promote into this role because this person has been in the organization long enough? And then we train them to be a leader. It's switched now. Organizations are looking for people who can demonstrate leadership skills. Then they promote them into leadership roles. Organizations are looking for people who will stand out in what it is that they're doing. They're not waiting to promote people based on they've been in that organization for 30 years, you've been there for 20 years, you've been there for 5 years, so you deserve the role. That's why you see somebody has been in a role for a long time, and then they go out there and they recruit somebody else to come and fill a position because they feel, oh my, this person has more leadership skills, this person has capabilities, this person can take us to where it is that we need to be. So in your current role, you need to demonstrate that you have those leadership skills, and you also have change leadership skills to lead the organization in today's fast-paced and disruptive business environment where you need to be agile, you need to be responsive. By developing our change leadership skills and competencies, this will position us as valuable employees that are critical to the success of the organization and also prime for top management position. So change leadership skills, no longer for just people who are change management professionals, but change management professionals need to have change leadership skills in order to be able to do an effective job. Because just like we saw earlier, what are the common reasons that projects fail or change initiatives fail? Not because of lack of methodology, but because of those interpersonal change leadership skills that will help us succeed. Shift number 3 that is taking place is the speed of change, the lightning speed of change. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we'd have our change leadership conferences, and our speakers, our panelists, they'll be talking about how change is happening at a quick speed, pace and speed, and it's not going to be any slower. During the pandemic, in the last 2 years, what happened? Things that were taking organizations in the past 7 years to implement, were taking them 7 months to implement. Decisions that organization had sitting on their desk and tables for months, and they were still looking at business cases in terms of how we're going to implement this change. What happened? Within seconds, they were implementing it. And that's what even things like AI too, and robotics and fourth industrial revolution technologies are doing. We don't need that unwieldy or systems where it takes so long to implement technology. With AI, you can easily create integration even into your existing systems. So there's so many things that are driving change to happen quickly. The type of technology is creating more seamless and easy integration even into our existing technologies. So gonna legacy system, we have a legacy system. How can we update to a new system? Now, AI bots, can sit on existing legacy systems. So change is happening quicker than ever before. The pandemic just swept everything right under our feet when it comes to how quickly things can happen. And guess what? It's created a business case now for organizations to say, what's our excuse of not making change happen? Before you say, oh, we have to do this, we have to speak to so and so person, we have to get this type of approvals, we have to bring in this organization. And that was what used to take maybe a year or 2 years to get everything in place to do. But what did the pandemic do? It showed us within a month or 2 months, we can implement change very quickly. So now a lot of organizations are adapting change very quickly. So the implications of the fast pace of change is that we have to have agility to respond to change better and faster. We have to be agile in our response to change. And that is where developing our change leadership skills, our change leadership competencies come into play in order to be able to make it happen. What I'm going to share with you now, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, Yvonne, we've heard change leadership is important. Of course, we think change leadership is important. If not, we wouldn't be in this masterclass with you today. So again, thank you for joining, And I want to introduce you to our roadmap that we use for developing change leadership skills and competencies, which we teach on our Change Leadership Accelerator course. And the change leadership DNA stands for D, which is really starts with discovering your change leadership competencies, discovering the competencies that are going to be very critical for your role to be able to respond to change better and faster. N is about navigating through change by being able to practically apply this change leadership competencies and tools, because it's one thing to know what those change leadership competencies are. It's another thing to be able to apply those change leadership competencies and applying the right one with the right tools. And A is about anticipating how to overcome barriers to change by preempting, preparing, and responding to change. And we're going to talk about all of this DNA and what it really means. And if you have any questions as we go along, please type your questions in the comment. I will address questions at the end. I want to make sure that we really cover any questions that you came into this masterclass having on your mind, and we will address all of it at the end. So make use of the comment box. Remember, I told you it was interactive. So if anything is really hitting you, if there's any question, just put it in the comment box. So when we talk about the change leadership DNA, it's really about creating your personalized approach to becoming a more confident and successful change leader. I say your personalized approach because one thing that we have to be aware of when we're leading change is that every change is unique. But the approach to how we lead it may be common. When we go into a change situation or we're working with change, one of the first things that we need to do is often take ourselves outside of the change, the situation, and look at the change from the outside in. I say that because we go into a change situation and we can easily say, oh yes, if I use this methodology, if I use this approach, it will work out. But every change, how it impacts every individual is different. So we start always with understanding that change situation, understanding who it is that we're working with, understanding that organization, depending on what that change is about, what your role is. So it starts with discovering, as a change leader, as somebody who wants to stand out as a change leader, what is my approach to leading and driving change? And it starts with discovering the competencies you need. What are those change leadership competencies that you need to develop in order to help you move forward? So when I think about it, one of my favorite quotes is around developing skills and competencies is this one that says, if I only had an hour to chop down a tree, I would spend 45 minutes sharpening my axe. And that's what change leadership is about. That's what it means to develop your skills and competencies so that you're not going out there using the wrong things to try and resolve a situation. You're not going there using a hammer to try and slice a tomato. So once you discover those skills, how are you sharpening those skills and competencies? And that's why it's key for you to discover those competencies that are important in your role, in your organization. And what are those general change leadership competencies that you need to develop so that you know how to apply them and when to apply them. So discover is about not only this, is also about mastering the right change leadership skills. It's about freeing your time and effort from activities that no longer work. So think about the situation right now. Picture a situation at work that you're leading that is giving you a lot of issues and problems. One of the questions that I get when people are struggling to resolve a situation is that they come in looking for tools. They come in looking for methodologies. They come in looking for who can help me with this situation. So many times what I get from people is I get an email saying, Yvonne, can you recommend a template that I can use? Can you recommend which model is the best model to use? And often at times I will start off with saying, let's look at the situation that you're facing. And then you find that it comes down to them just being able to apply interpersonal skills to be able to resolve those situations. And sometimes it could just be as simple as applying empathy to the situation. Sometimes it could just be as simple as applying emotional intelligence to the situation. I'll give you an example. I remember this project that I went to. I was brought in to resolve the help lead and manage the change. So the first thing they said to me as a change manager coming into the organization is, hey, Yvonne, we have the stakeholder who is really giving us issues. Please help us resolve it. And they sent me her details. I scheduled the meeting. I said, sure, I'll go speak to this stakeholder. When I got into the meeting with the stakeholder, the director was screaming at me in this meeting and was ready to walk out of that meeting and says, I don't need to be here. This is a waste of my time, and was just going on. At that point in time, guess what? No change management methodology, no model, no tools, no templates were going to help me resolve that issue. What I had to bring was a more human-centered approach to dealing with this change. That was where I had to dig into my change leadership toolbox and say, Yvonne, you need to apply empathy here. You need to apply emotional intelligence so that I did not respond to the person in the same way they were speaking to me. Hands up in the column. If somebody is screaming at you in what you consider to be an office setting, in a meeting room, about to walk out of a meeting, how many people will continue to sit in that office and speak to that stakeholder? What would be your reaction? Your immediate reaction to the situation? Type it in the comments. I want to see what your response would be. You get into a meeting, someone is out there, they're saying, we don't need you, you're here a little bit too late, I'm walking out of this, this is a waste of my time. What's your immediate reaction? That's where I had to apply emotional intelligence and not have to respond in the same way that she was treating me. That's where I had to take myself out of the situation and say, I'm not the hero in this story. I'm not Superwoman or Superman who has come to resolve the whole situation. I need to focus on the stakeholder. And that's where I had to apply empathy. I needed to start listening to the words that she was saying, why she was frustrated, why she wanted to walk out of that meeting. And that was empathy. So those were the two change leadership skills that I brought to bear in that situation. And that stakeholder turned out to be my biggest ally. Before I got to the other building in the office, and after the meeting, as soon as I got in, folks were like, Yvonne, what did you do? She's assigned resources to our project. They're accepting our meeting request now. That was it. All I said to, you guys sent me to the lion's den, right? Because everybody knew who the stakeholder was and what she was like, but nobody warned me before going. All they wanted from me was solution, result, and people assigned to their project. So it's about discovering change leadership skills that work for you in your situation and really making them work for you. So it's about knowing that effectively leading change requires using the right skills and competencies. And that starts with developing the right skills and competencies for you. You know, when I talk about change leadership and teach about it, these are the 10 skills that I really focus in and hone in on, and they are more. It doesn't end here, but these are the 10 change leadership skills that I believe that if you can grasp, whatever project is, whatever your role is, whatever tools that you're even using, whatever change management methodology templates that you're using, you'll be able to apply these skills to be more able to effectively lead and even manage change. I spoke about, developing your leadership skills already. I spoke about how you can use empathy and emotional intelligence. Collaboration is so key. In today's future of work, in today's workplace, in today's more human-centered approach, it's all about collaboration. It's no longer about build it and they will come. Who here has heard about the Great Resignation? Let me see, how many yeses can I get in terms of who has heard about the Great Resignation? I see the chat going there. Yes. We're all hearing about the Great Resignation. Some people are saying, let's call it the Great Reset, right? So which name do you prefer? Great Resignation, Great Reset? What other names are you hearing out there about the Great Resignation? But when we think about it, whatever name it's called, whether the Great Resignation, the Great Reset, the Great Reshuffle is another one. Why is this happening? Because we're moving more to a place where people are saying that I have autonomy at work. People are saying, what do I want from a job? What do I want from an organization? So it's no longer about saying, oh, I'm going to tell my stakeholders what to do and they have to do it. I'm going to tell my stakeholders about this change and they're going to embrace it. We need to start to collaborate with our stakeholders. We need to start to co-design with our stakeholders. And you know what? I think that's usually basic and simple. I remember somebody was asking, who's led this, who's done a change on a particular type of project before, around enterprise data change and all of that. And I say, okay, yeah, I've done the change, and they asked, oh, okay, how did you approach it? What did you do? So I started to share with them. What I was sharing with them wasn't anything really that was specific to any enterprise data type management program. What I was sharing with them were things that were very people focused. So I said to them, work with your stakeholders, collaborate with them, co-design, the solution. They say, oh, we've already identified the solution. This is what we're doing. I say, okay, fine. Where are you now? Oh, we're doing benefits. Oh, it's okay. Benefits is great. Oh, but guess what they were doing? They were doing that exercise solely on their own. How can you define benefits for your stakeholders without involving your stakeholders? So the technology team is defining the benefits of a solution for their stakeholders without involving the stakeholders. So I just even assumed, I said, oh, yeah, sure. I'm sure you're working with your stakeholders to define the benefits. They said, oh, no, that's a great idea. So, and I like what Jennifer has said, people are reassessing their values. If people do not feel involved in a situation, if people feel that this organization is not for me, this organization does not align with my values, they do not treat me right, guess what? People know they can walk away. And that's what really the Great Resignation, the Great Reshuffle, the Great Reset is all about, is that people realizing that in the last 2 years, I have more autonomy. So it's not really about just tell them what to do and they will do it. It's about, are you collaborating with your stakeholders? Are you engaging with your stakeholders? There's communication there, but are you engaging with them? Are you empowering your stakeholders? Do they feel part of the solution? Whether you're a change manager, a director, a manager, a subject matter expert, a business analyst, a project manager, are you employing these change leadership competencies to be able to support and lead? Are you able to make decisions and move forward? I'll give you another example. There I am, project manager on this project, obviously project manager on the project, but this initiative, I'm project manager. This was many years ago. And when it came to making a decision, and that's why I call decision making is a change leadership skill. When it came to making a decision, I said to somebody on the QA, quality assurance, they were doing some testing. I said, we need to move forward with this and implement it. And they say, oh, no, we can't really move forward with this because we need to get a sign off from somebody. I'm not talking sign off on the whole solution, just sign off on a small aspect of something that we knew was critical. And they're like, I said, they're not around. They're away right now. We can't wait for that. We need to move this solution into production ASAP. They said, well, we have to wait for it. I said, you know what? Let's just go and do it. They said, well, if you make that decision, it's all on you. I say, it's all on me. I'm giving the sign off. Let's go ahead and let's implement this. And what did I do there? I applied critical thinking as well, because I looked at it, I assessed the risk. I said, what is the benefit of it giving us more return on investment or more value than if we wait? If we waited, for the executive to come back before we got that sign off, it would delay things from happening. And if it delays things from happening, we don't have the resources anymore. Then we have regulatory impacts. Then we need to pay fines. So I said, let's go ahead. And I took that risk. But that was just an example of what I used to do in my career, whether as a project manager. So every time they had a high profile project, they would say, we need Yvonne on this project. Because I could take ownership, I could take leadership, I could move things forward. So when it came to time when they were looking for somebody to promote into a senior managerial role, they said, you know what, Yvonne can do this. Because I demonstrated being a leader while I was still a project manager. And that's what change leadership is about. And that's what change leadership can help us do when we discover what they are and discover those competencies and apply it at the right time, to the right scenario, to the right tools. The next one that we want to look at is the N in your DNA roadmap, and that's navigating. You're going to see some quotes from me because I love quotes, and I want you to carefully read this, because so many times we go there, we do this course, we do this program, we Google, and we're acquiring facts. So we can acquire knowledge, and knowledge is about acquiring facts. Understanding is about interpreting those facts. And wisdom is about application. So are you acquiring knowledge? Are you acquiring models? Are you acquiring facts alone? Or are you able to apply that knowledge to get you the results? The practical application of change leadership would lead to things like overcoming obstacles for your ideas and projects, overcoming obstacles with your peers and stakeholders. It will help you secure resources that you need, even on your change or projects. It will help you drive adoption of the change when you're able to practically apply the right change leadership skills that you've discovered and knowing how to effectively use them. Practical application of change leadership is about engaging with employees, colleagues, and stakeholders to get their buy-in and for them to be able to go above and beyond for you. Change leadership is about influence. How are you influencing your stakeholders is key. So navigate is about moving you from knowledge to application to success. That's what navigate is about. It's about navigating your change initiatives, whether you're leading change or whether with your team, with ease by knowing the right tools that you need to apply. It's about knowing when, okay, I can use this template, because if you have change leadership, that helps you with knowing, okay, what tools do I need to apply? How do I apply to this model? So even when we go to our change leadership program, I don't even touch on models or methodologies or templates to the end. I leave it till the very end. And then I focus on let's learn some change leadership skills. And then by the time we get to templates and the models, I now say, okay, how are you going to apply these change leadership skills to being able to use these models, to being able to use this template? Because when we get on a change initiative, if you're a change manager, or you have to manage change, if you have the role change manager, you have all these models or even templates in front of you, depending on how experienced you are. Yeah, you're like, okay, what information goes into this template? You get this template, which is a change management strategy, and you're wondering what goes into this template. What goes into this template is based on how you have engaged with your stakeholders at the beginning, what you understand about the change, how you've applied your critical listening skills to be able to, understand what's going on and know how to apply it. That's how you determine what solutions am I going to apply that work. I know many times, we just want those templates. And I've been in an organization where I got started on the project. They hadn't chosen the vendor. They didn't know the solution they were using. We didn't even know what the impact was going to be to the stakeholders, because guess what? We hadn't chosen a vendor or a solution, but they wanted a change management plan. Because they're used to, let's just build a change management plan, a standard change management plan, a vanilla change management plan, an out-of-the-box change management plan. But when you apply change leadership skills to what it is that you're doing, that flips things around. You get to engage with your stakeholders. You get to engage with the change. You get to understand what's happening with the change. Then when it's time to do your change management plan, because of that engagement that you've had with your stakeholders, you easily know what it is that you're even going to put in your change management plan. It becomes easy. You've engaged with your stakeholders, you know what the risks are to the project. You've engaged with your stakeholders, so you know what type of solution would work for them in terms of engagement strategies and communication strategies that will work for them. You've engaged with your stakeholders, so you know what level of resistance that you are likely to face and how to overcome those potential resistance to change. So those are the skills that will help you navigate and know what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Change leadership is not about buzzwords. Change leadership is not about cookie cutter templates. And the amount of times that I've heard this. So it's not about going out there and just looking for the right buzzwords. And I was so disappointed. I was speaking with somebody the other day, and they said they went for an interview. I said, oh, awesome, you went for an interview. How did the interview go? And they said they were talking about what they were going to do. At the end of the interview, they didn't get the role. And I said to them, oh, what happened? They said, oh, they asked for feedback. And they were told that because they didn't use change management buzzwords. How ridiculous is that? But the person was still able to say, oh, you said all the right things. You described the situation, but you did not use change management buzzwords. Do you know that organizations are looking for people who do not use change management buzzwords? Instead, they can demonstrate that they're able to lead the change and bring about results. I was on a project, like for like type of project. My project went into implementation, went into production. If you're familiar with technology projects, you know what it means to go into production, as in it was rolled out and implemented, the first phase of it. So when my executive went into the meeting with other executives, and especially the same executives that were overseeing the other project, and they said to them, so how come this other project has gone into implementation and production phase one, and your project has been going on for much longer and you haven't even gone to production? And, my sponsor at that time, leadership sponsor, said, oh, it's our change management folk that is helping us on this. So the other project, the lead on there, the business sponsor, or more like business manager sponsor, got delegated to come speak to our project, and our project manager just said, oh, speak to Yvonne. And when I started to speak to the business lead on the project, after I finished speaking to them, they said, you're the first person that has been able to tell me what change management is without all of these buzzwords. And it's not as if they didn't have access to change management on their project. There was a whole CMO that they could pick out a change manager from that had been giving advisory on this project but they've been pushing back on change management because they didn't know the value of change management. All they could hear was buzzwords, stakeholder impact analysis, change strategy, they were just hearing buzzwords. When I speak to my stakeholders, I don't use buzzwords with them. I connect with them as people. I connect with them as humans. I connect with them as saying, what does this change mean to you? How can I support you? How can I help you? Organizations are looking for people who are doers, who know what to do, who know how to drive change, and who know how to produce results. So when I go in there, I don't focus on how fantastic my change management methodology or approach is. I focus on how am I going to get results? How am I going to drive and lead this change to be able to get results? Being able to lead change and get results is not often about what you know, but it's about what you're able to do with what you know. It's about having an axe and knowing how to use it. It's about sharpening your change leadership skills in order to be able to lead and drive change and get results. Success is the uncommon application of common knowledge. And what do I say? Everything is out there when it comes to leading change, and they will push all kinds of methods and methodology and buzzwords. They'll tell you what to do, and you can get overwhelmed. Thank God for Google, but also Google has the ability to overwhelm us. So when it comes to being able to navigate, it becomes to being, how can I apply the right tools, the right skills to be able to get the right results? And this can apply to anything, any tool, even a spreadsheet. I'm in Canada. I mentioned this at the beginning. So if anybody is familiar with loads of snow in their country, you know what snow blowers look like. But recently I saw a video where somebody had this snow blower and they got in it because we had a huge dump. And they're using the snow blower, but they don't even know how to use it. And they're blowing the snow into their neighbor's driveway because they don't know how to move the nozzle in the direction it should go. So they can get a snow blower, they know what it looks like, they can research on Google how to use it, but knowing how to use it is another thing. You may have heard of empathy, you may have heard of emotional intelligence, you may have Googled it, but knowing how to use those skills and tools in the right way is another thing, and another capacity that you need to be able to develop. Now we're moving to the A in DNA, which is all about anticipate. The best way to predict your future is to create it. I love this. And we're all talking about developing your change leadership skills and competency for the future. So the best way to even have a small measure of success is to prepare for it and plan for it in advance, be it personally or be it at work. This is what it means to be prepared to respond to change, not waiting for when change happens to be and it's upon us for us to react, but being able to respond to the change. A in anticipate is all about being prepared to respond to change faster, and it's about using practical, proven strategies to be able to do so. It's about the ability for you to preempt what could happen, prepare for it, and respond to it before it happens. That was the difference between organizations in the pandemic that were either reacting or they had anticipated. They had a fallback measure. They had, a response measure to say if any disaster recovery plans to say if a disaster was to happen, how would we approach this disaster? Those are the organizations that are leading change. Those are the organizations that when they heard about cloud, they didn't say, what is cloud? Cloud doesn't apply to me. But what they were able to say is that, let's explore this. Let's see whether we need it in our organization. And when the pandemic happened, they could easily respond to that change as opposed to react and start scrambling around. These are my favorite characters. Who has read Who Moved My Cheese? Who knows Haw and Sniff? If you've read Who Moved My Cheese, drop a heart in there. Or if you liked it, drop a heart. If you've read it, you can just say thumbs up, I've read it. But if you liked the book as much as I loved the book, who moved my cheese? I want to see a heart emoji. So am I seeing any heart emojis? I'm looking in the comments. Who's read it? Remember, I said it's about participating today. So where are the thumbs and finger? Oh, Sandra hasn't read it. Sandra, please go check out this book. It's a timeless book on being able to respond to change and being able to react or anticipate. So go check it out. Anybody read the book? So I'm just hearing from Sandra, will do. So awesome. And you know what, Sandra, drop me a message. Let me know when you read the book, what you think about it. Jane has read it. Oliver, you've read it. Great book about learning agility, right? Agility is nothing new, and I love that this book is timeless when it comes to it. And Catherine responded with a hat right at you. Same here. Love it, love it, love it. So do you react to change, leaving it too late, or are you having to scramble around to respond to the change? Do you anticipate change, or are you responsive to changes taking place around you, be it in your career and saying that, how do I develop my change leadership competencies? How do I position myself, to be recognized as a change leader? How do I position myself where people say, my bosses or my leads or executives can say, we can trust this person with this role because they're able to drive things. Let me make it clear right now, it goes beyond just being able to do in our career. We need to be agile. We need to be seen to be leading. We need to be seen to driving things. Because if we're not, our competitors are doing so, other organizations. And guess what? Consumer demand is high. So are you being responsive to change in your market, in your industry? Are you checking out what's going on, what the trends are? Are you monitoring things? So whether in your career, in your workplace, or on your projects, the ability to respond to change is to be able to identify patterns and opportunities, to monitor trends, and to apply the right change leadership skills and tools. So an example of this would be, how do you anticipate and prevent even resistance to change? And this is as simple as engaging with your stakeholders or team. It's about conducting the right type of assessment early on in the project. It's about helping you identify potential resistance and root causes even before the change starts. And you do this by co-designing, collaborating with your stakeholders, by being visionary, by applying critical thinking. Those are the things you do to anticipate and prevent resistance to change. And it minimizes it and it helps you to get buy-in. That's just a simple example of how you can anticipate and get more results and get more buy-in, as opposed to just saying, oh, build it and they will come. Build it and they will come no longer happens. In short, let me even tell you how organizations are changing the way that they do things now. Remember, if anybody has been part of IT or technology, many, many years ago, technology IT team would often own the budget for how they designed and implemented solutions, and they would just build these solutions that they believed were the best for the organization. Now the budget is split. For anything new and innovative, you find that a lot of the budget goes to the business. So the business have more responsibility to say what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. So even people who are in IT or technology, they're now having to listen to their stakeholders. They're now having to engage their stakeholders at the beginning and not have to wait till the end to say, oh, build it and they will come or they will use it. So success is never an accident. If you want to be successful in what it is that you do, it's always the result of a plan. They say chance favors the prepared. So get prepared and stay ready. Develop your change leadership skills so that you don't have to get ready later on when it's too late. We need to be able to anticipate, strategize, and respond to change better and faster in today's business landscape. Period. End of story. That is what it is. And that is a skill that will help us regardless of our role, regardless of our position, regardless of our organization. We need to be able to do it. So the question that I have for you as we end this, and if you have any questions, please put it in the comment box, is how are you developing your change leadership competency? How are you developing those competencies to stand out? How are you responding to change better and faster? I want to hear what it is that you're doing. How are you learning, unlearning, and relearning for the future? Because agility, ability to be able to adapt to change, ability to be able to respond to change better and faster, those are all the skills that will help us prepare for the future. So how are you doing it? That is my question as I bring this to an end. So I want to thank you for, hanging on with me, and you can feel free to connect with me before I read if there are any comments, if there are any questions. I have a free bonus template for you. If you're thinking about preparing yourself for the future of work, here's a free template, a free link. Jen has a link. Please, Jen, post the link in the comments box so you can always check this out. It's a simple one-page action plan to help you prepare yourself for the accelerated future of work. I also have free resources. So if you find yourself that you're, whether a project manager, whether you have title, whether you have position or you don't have that position or title, but you are being tasked to lead and drive change, I want you to check out these free resources as well. You can get them for free, and there are tips. It goes into more details that will help you develop skills, that will help you anticipate, that will help you lead change, that will help you lead change even in today's uncertain times. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. Great to see everybody. I saw a few people when we got started, but hey, Jen, do we have any questions as we've come to the end of the session? I'm seeing that any questions from anybody. If we have no questions, I'm happy for us to bring this session to an end very quickly. Hey, Jen, did we get any questions during the session?
I don't see any questions at this time.
Okay. Jury, thank you. Great workshop. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, hey, I invite everybody to take advantage of the resources. Thank you, Hector. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Ritika. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And please feel free to connect with us. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We will keep you informed of the next 3 sessions that we have. And like I said, we're going to have a panel discussion session where we're going to bring in someone from HR, talent management, technology, change management. Jen is going to be leading that, where we're going to talk about what it means to lead change in various industries and how it's changing all around. We're going to have a panel discussion on that one. And then we're going to have a case study where we look in depth what it means to lead change. So the dates for that are every 2 weeks. So the next one is on the 16th of February. Then we have another one for the case study, which we're all going to be looking at. You will get the case study in advance and you'll be able to do that. And then the last one will be a roundtable where we all come back and discuss everything that we've learned. So it's a 4-part series. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day. And bye for now. Great to connect with everybody. Bye for now.